So this morning I collected eggs from Darwin's tank, and there's Darwin right there, and I got them from that little area, and it was like just this morning, so I believe she laid them last night, and I just noticed that she looked skinnier this morning, and I was like, she's probably laid the eggs. So we're gonna go over here and we're gonna look at the eggs real quick. So we have this thing, and I think I know of a better way to do this, but I honestly have no idea what I'm doing. So here we have a little thing. This is just it's a thermometer, hygrometer, but what it is not is a thermostat. So there's a difference. Thermostats will control the temperature of something. This one just tells you the temperature, and a hygrometer tells you the humidity. So currently it's 95 and 71, which is decent. In my room, the eggs can incubate just in my room. The temperature is really not an issue. The problem is the humidity. So this is pretty humid. This is vermiculite, and those are the two eggs right there. So there's lots of ventilation. So while it's 95% humidity right where the eggs are, it is also quite ventilated, so I don't have to worry too much about that, I don't think. So hopefully they won't mold. That's the main concern. Other than that, I'm just going to leave them here. Now, it's very, very possible that they're fertile, because right before Darwin started to look pregnant, she mated with a male, and they hooked up. I saw it and everything, and then she looked pregnant after that, and then eventually she laid her eggs. So that is very possible, but I'm not going to check them like with a flashlight or anything. I don't want to touch them or mess with them at all, because I'm very new to all of this, and I kind of just it's not gonna hurt me just to let it sit in my room. In a couple of weeks I'll check on it again, probably spray some more water in there, and I've actually had it set up for a good couple of weeks, and it stayed pretty humid. I don't think it's too humid, but I don't think it's not humid enough, so I think it might just be just right. I could be totally off on that. It's kind of just a learning experience. I'm going to see how it goes. So we have all the turtles. But I'm actually about to feed Darwin. You can see her. I'll kind of show you what a female looks like after they've laid eggs. Now, she's laid eggs before, and Teddy's laid eggs before, so I'm pretty used to that process, that whole thing. But I've just, the eggs have either molded, and I've always kind of assumed that they're infertile, because I've never seen her mate before Leonard. So the thing about Leonard is that he passed away pretty soon after they mated, which was really strange to me, and I did a video on that. I have no idea why, but you can see she's a good weight. She's good, but she's not plump. So I mean, she is plump, which is what I've always loved about Darwin. She is not a picky eater. She eats very well for me, and that's really great. I love that when there's a Crested Gecko that eats very well, because not all of them do that. So she eats very well for me, and she is a very good weight, but she's not bulging, I guess, the look that she had when she had the eggs. So I will, I keep saying this, but they'll be getting new enclosures where I won't have to worry about the eggs so much, because as you can see in here, possibly, you can see all the isopods feasting on everything, and they will eat the eggs if I leave them in for not very long at all, so they'll just eventually eat them. So I'm going to move her into an enclosure without isopods. I'll actually be moving all the Crested Geckos into an enclosure without isopods, and then hopefully I can just leave them and then just hope that babies will kind of just pop up in the tank, and then I can take them out, because I'm just breeding this just to see how it goes. There's no goal really. I mean, I highly doubt I can make a realistic, a decent amount of money from breeding Crested Geckos, because it's just, Crested Geckos are a lot to take care of, and I don't want to have a ton of Crested Geckos. So it's just kind of a thing. If I can do it, then that's really cool. But if not, then it's, I'm gonna keep pursuing it, but it's not for a business. It's just to experience it type of deal. And I don't think it's too much stress on Darwin, I'm sure it's stress, but it's a natural thing. I think the animals have to be pretty healthy to properly breed and stuff. So it's very interesting. I'm glad I found those, and I'm glad I just woke up and I saw her and I was like, oh, I'm gonna get some eggs, I guess. So that was kind of interesting. It wasn't like I didn't go nuts or anything. It was just like, well, there's the egg. So it's pretty annoying to get them out of here because I can't see down there, and I think I might have rotated one before I got it, because the first time I looked down, like I'd kind of moved around some dirt, and then I looked down and I was like, there's an egg right on the surface, and I was like, oh shoot, did I move it? Like, I really hope I didn't. The other one I had to dig a little bit for, because I knew they normally always lay 2, so I had to dig a little bit for it, and it was like down in there, and I was like, wow, she did a really good job of burying it, and the isopods hadn't gotten to it, so that's pretty interesting. So I'm gonna go ahead and feed her, spray down her enclosure, take care of the other crested geckos. Unfortunately, it's been a couple of days since I've fed them because I just didn't have the opportunity to do so this weekend, but that doesn't happen that never happens. It was just a very, I guess, a special occasion on Saturday. So other than that, they've been very consistently fed for a very long time. So it was kind of unfortunate that streak broke, but I'll go ahead and feed them now, and I'm sure they'll be fine, especially since they're all over a year old, so they can go longer without being fed. But I generally like to do it more often just to be safe. Hey guys, so I'm sorry for like background noise and stuff. I've been trying to work on it. It's just something that I'm trying to figure out. There's some weird echo that's going on my desk, and so I figured I would show you what's going on present day. So that was filmed October 12th of 2020, and now it is December 1st of 2020. So it's been about a month and a half, and I suspect that the eggs will hatch in about a month. So like end of December, probably around Christmas, hopefully. Be a nice present. But that would be really cool. It'd be a Christmas miracle. And the eggs are doing pretty well. So they have just been doing well. Like, they haven't rotted, and they don't look super like dehydrated. So I've kind of been spraying down the other side of the vermiculite periodically, just to add some humidity into the enclosure. I honestly think it's like way over ventilated, but they seem to be doing perfectly fine. So that seems to be working pretty well. Now, as I said, I don't worry about the temperature in here. So a lot of things have happened since October 12th. I actually have a lot more experience since then. So I've hatched 3 crested geckos now, and they were 3 crested geckos that I didn't even know about the eggs. And I've been raising crested geckos now for a while, and I've dealt with eggs a lot more, and I kind of understand a lot more. So I'm going to talk about how to keep the crested geckos, the eggs anyway, and talk about my experience, even though I still don't completely grasp what's going on. I mean, I understand what's going on. I just don't know if I'm doing everything correctly. So I still don't know if the vermiculite method works. What I read is that sometimes people will use it, and they'll end up with rotted eggs. So I kind of figured that would happen. It hasn't, which is pretty impressive. As I said, I use vermiculite. I've heard that like hatch right and like the proper like hatch substrates or whatever are better, and there's the different kinds of ones like that. So I'm not entirely sure of that. So far, vermiculite has worked just fine, and then as I said, like a bioactive substrate works really well to incubate them in as well. And I think the key is like you couldn't just put eco earth, because eco earth would just mold on its own, so that would be an issue as well. So I'm not entirely sure what the best incubating medium is, but so far I've been doing all right with vermiculite and then bioactive soil. So that's like a mix of a bunch of different soils, like sphagnum moss and stuff like that. So like I said, I don't worry about the temperature in my room, because you can keep the eggs at quite a range. It's about 68 to 69 even to 80 degrees. So there's probably like one side gets you females and one side gets you males. I don't really know. I you can try to go for like the 75 area. I kind of go between, or I wanna get like between 70 and 75, I think. But basically it's whatever temperature my room is, because they're hatching in the enclosures, and that's what I've had most success with. So I've only have those 2 eggs on the vermiculite. Darwin's laid 2 eggs since then, and she laid them about like a month and a week after. They will lay eggs like every month, so like 30 days to every like month and a week. That's what I've found with them, because that's what my other female, Teddy, is the one who is the proper mother. Like she has, like the babies are hatched and everything, and there's a lot of eggs incubating. And it took a month for her to lay another clutch, because she has a clutch kind of aligning with the 2 that I dug up from Darwin's, and I think they're kind of on the same cycle, so they'll lay eggs like right at the same time. So those 2 should hatch right about the same time, I believe, and because the other babies kind of just hatch, so then it should be a month till then. So yeah, they should hatch right around the same time, and they're in her enclosure and they're incubating just fine. So in the soil is actually a great place for them to be incubating. And as I said earlier, in Darwin's tank there's lots of isopods. It's not as bad in the other enclosures, it's mainly just Darwin's tank. So the isopods can also help with getting rid of like mold or anything like that, and springtails. But it just seems to be working out pretty well in Teddy's tank, and you can tell that there are not as many isopods because they're not just all over everything all the time. But in Darwin's tank it's pretty bad, so the giant canyon isopods can definitely take over. I would recommend like a smaller species, but I'm thinking that getting rid of all of them isn't the right idea. I think that some are all right. So that's the temperature to keep them in, and that's pretty much what my room stays. So you'll see on there that it said like 75 or something, what they currently are in their new place where the eggs are, and they've been doing pretty well. And then for humidity, you want like 95 to 90% humidity, this says, but generally I keep it at between like 90 and 100%. You don't want 100%, you don't want the eggs to be soaked, you definitely don't want the eggs to be drowning, but I think like a higher, like 90 something, is generally a pretty good thing to aim for. And because of how I have it set up, I think it's like relatively dry above and then relatively really humid on the other side, so they're getting that water from the bottom and then they're not molding on the top. Something along the lines of that. I'm not entirely sure, so I hope to have more experience in the future, and I'm just sharing with you guys what I'm doing and just what I've done to kind of help out in any way I can. So it's really not a difficult process. I honestly thought it was a lot harder. I mean, as you just watched the clip, and I had no idea that I was gonna have babies in like however many days after that. And then I had babies. The babies are pretty easy to like raise and everything. I will be talking about those more. This is actually the first video that those are like on the channel. I posted a post on Instagram quite a while ago because I've had them for well over a month now, and I just haven't gotten to, as you could see the clip, October 12th. That's pretty much where I am now, and I'm still making up time back from then. I don't know, it's weird. But I'll talk about that. I'll do videos about that. That's what's coming next, I believe. I think that's next up will be the videos about them, and it's been a pretty easy process of raising them. But as far as incubating the eggs, I've had most success with just doing it in the soil, and the soil isn't even good. Like it's decent soil, but the tank doesn't have a proper drainage layer. There's a lot of problems with the tanks that I've built, and that's why I'm gonna redo them, and that's still the plan. I'm hoping to be able to do that during winter break in December, and I'll build like a really big enclosure, because currently I have the male that I still have, and I've mated him with Darwin too, as well as Teddy. So he's actually the father of Teddy's babies. And then if the new Darwin babies hatch eventually, and they're incubating in like a whole separate enclosure. I had to move them out of Darwin's tank because of the isopods, but they're in a different terrarium now. If they hatch, I believe they'll be Linuses. So if the two that you guys saw actually hatch, I will be keeping those because their father is deceased, as I said, and he just died for like no reason. And that was extremely disappointing, and I honestly miss him. So it would be really cool to have offspring from him. So if they hatch and everything goes well there, then I will keep those babies. And then I'm obviously going to keep the first two because they're like the first. I don't know. And they're pretty, like, they're cool. They're really cool, actually. So that is the thing. So I already have 3 adults. Now I'm keeping 4 babies. I'm going to build an absolutely huge enclosure where I'll have a couple of groups of them. That's what I'm thinking right now. And it'll probably be like 2 females to a male or something like that. And obviously I'll be watching them and everything. And some of them I'll probably have to hand feed so I can make sure that the male isn't stressing them out, because I've seen how Linus acts, and he's pretty like breeding aggressive. So if that ends up happening, and I'll make sure there's no incest essentially once the babies grow up and stuff. So those are the future plans. And like I said, a bunch of baby videos coming out because I have the babies, and while I'm not entirely sure how to incubate them besides just throw them in a bioactive tank, I do know how to raise the babies pretty well, and I've had quite a bit of experience with them. So hope you found this helpful. If you have any comments or concerns, put in the comments down below. And if you want more content, then feel free to subscribe. It's a pretty good way to fund my content. So have a fantastic day.